Hi, this is Rachel Cunningham, and you're listening to Joyful Love, episode 113. If you're ready to bring joy and connection back to your marriage, stick around. Each week, I give you the tools to up-level your thinking, open your heart, and bring joy and fun back to your relationship. Because it's not enough just to stay married. We want to love being married. Last week, in the Stoked community, a member asked a question and I decided to record the answer. And then at the end of it, I thought, well, a lot of people could benefit from that, I'm sure. There's so many of us walking around with anxiety and, these intrusive thoughts. And that's what her question was about. So instead of just keeping this to our private community, I am going to share something that I shared in our Stoked Marriage Mastermind with you guys. And I know that you will benefit as well. So, if you get a lot out of this, and if you have these questions running around in your mind every week on different subjects from how to find time to take care of yourself, to how to relate better with your partner, to how to incorporate intimacy again in your relationship when life is so busy and all of the things, right? Everything from health to your relationships to life, right? If you would like a life coach, I invite you to come and join us in the Stoked community. It's a community of women who are living their best lives, working towards improving their relationships, improving their health, improving their families, one day, one step, one question, one coaching session at a time. That is just $67 a month right now. And, if you think about that in terms of improving your life, improving your relationship, improving so many things, right? If you think about it in terms of that, $67 for life coaching is a drop in the bucket compared to what you get for that. There are dozens of classes on relationships, nervous system regulation, communication, sexual intimacy. There are dozens of classes in there that are already done that you can go through on your own. And then when you get stuck in something, you can fill out the workbook pages and tap into your own wisdom with the workbook pages in there. And then when you're still stuck, you come to a coaching session. Right now, I have 2 different coaching sessions every week to help everyone in different time zones. And, in addition, we have our ongoing workshops. The most recent one right now is our ongoing workshop on health and perimenopause and how to take care of yourself in midlife, whether you are approaching midlife or on the other side of it or right in the middle of it. This workshop series applies to you. So yes, I've done a massive amount of studying on health and relationships and life coaching and time management and all the things. And that group, that community is an opportunity to share with you everything that I have studied as a life and health coach. I want to share this information with you. I want to help you. I want to be your life coach. And yes, you can hire me one-on-one if you're interested in that. Reach out to me. But if one-on-one coaching is not in your budget or in your schedule, the Stoked community is a perfect fit for you right now. So I encourage you to join that. In the meantime, enjoy this question from Katie in our group. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm going to just read a question that Katie posted in the group this morning. Or actually, I think she posted it last night. And I'm just going to answer it. So let's go. Katie's topic was on rumination and detrimental thoughts. And I'm sure so many of us can relate to this. She says, I'm just going to read verbatim what she says. She says, does anyone here ever experience strange, detrimental thoughts that are sometimes hard to shake? I don't just mean like worrying about the past or the future of a relationship. I mean like having weird thoughts when you get on an airplane about what happens if it crashes, things like that. I get weird thoughts like that when flying, riding roller coasters, if I'm going to be away from my children for a long time. It didn't help that one time my husband and I were going on a trip and my youngest was 3 and said, don't get on the airplane. What if you never come back? Usually when these thoughts come in my mind, I can push them out. But sometimes it's not always so easy. Just wondering if I'm the only one. And how do I handle it when these thoughts come? Well, okay, first of all, Katie, I know that you are absolutely not the only one. I am one of those people too that has like a lot of intrusive, detrimental thought. I like to call it just my anxiety, the anxiety part of me that sometimes ebbs and flows, right? I think some of us have an overactive amygdala, which is that part of your brain that just like starts telling you over and over, watch out for danger everywhere you go, right? And so the amygdala is a beautiful thing, right? It's what we need to help us avoid danger, right? That is there for a reason. But some of us can, whether it's due to our chemical makeup, hereditary, or just different things that have happened in our lives that have caused it to be overactive, some of us just have an overactive amygdala. And to answer your question, yes, you can get better at it. You can do things about it. But there's also this other aspect of it that, sometimes like we just get to accept that there are some things about us that we might struggle with for a while. And, it might be a perpetual problem for a while that we're going to have to learn to deal with, or in your word, handle, right? So for me, this overactive anxiety ebbs and flows, right? Like some years my brain, it calms down and it's like, hey, babe, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. You can sit down, you can relax, you can fly, you're going to be okay, right? And sometimes it's totally fine. And then there's other times, especially when my children were young, and not only when they were young, but when they were teenagers and like so many times throughout their lives. And, that first year that my oldest moved out, my brain was going crazy with all the anxiety and all the intrusive thoughts of what might happen. And what if this, what if this, what if this, right? And, these are the times that I have practiced and I'm getting really, really good at reminding myself that I am not my thought. I am not my thought. There is nothing wrong with me that these thoughts are popping in my mind, right? And, just because a thought pops in my head does not mean going to become a reality. It does not mean it's some intuitive thing in me that's like, oh my gosh, this is actually going to happen and this is my brain like preparing me, right? Like that does not mean that it's going to happen. I used to have all those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, like I'm having these thoughts. Why? What if it's true? But it doesn't mean anything, right? These thoughts are not reality. They don't mean anything about me. They don't mean anything negative about me. And they don't mean anything is going to happen that is negative. So that's step one, to like remind yourself of that. Like these are, this is just what my brain is doing to protect me, right? And sometimes it goes on overdrive. I also love just like understanding that taking it a step further from I am not my thought. I am the watcher of my thought. I am the watcher of my thought. I am not my thought, but I get to be the watcher of my thought. And I get to choose what to do with those thoughts, to either feed them and to nourish them and to let them grow and to let them spread like wildfire to other anxious thoughts. Or I get to pull them out and understand them and decide on purpose what to do with them. Which I think is what you're asking here, Katie. How do we handle these thoughts and what do we do with them? So I'm going to take through a few steps here. I just jotted them down before I popped on here because I knew I wanted to answer this for you. And so I'm just going to take you through a few steps that you can follow next time this happens. Like I said, number one, the first step is just to notice that you're having a thought. Even just name it. Oh, this is a thought. It doesn't mean anything negative about me. It is just a thought. So notice that it's a thought. And then step two is I like to take it a step further. Not just being aware of this, how my brain works, but can I thank my brain for trying to keep me safe? You know, and there's something about gratitude in so many different situations that can just bring levity and peace to you, right? And peace to your body. So can you thank your brain for trying to keep you safe? Like just, thank you, brain. Thank you, amygdala, for trying to keep me safe. I see you, you know, and find gratitude in the way that we are made, right? Seeing the beauty that our brains are made to protect us. We are made to assess our surroundings and to be able to look ahead and plan to keep ourselves safe so that we can keep our species alive and our children and ourselves alive. And I think that for most moms, that chemical bond with our children, especially if you're talking about situations where where your children could be in danger, or where you could be in danger and leave your children behind. Our brains and that chemical bond with our children is as mothers is so strong. And not always, but many times it's way stronger than our husband, right? So I would say, first of all, I mean, this comment came up in here before too, like, how is it that we can go to bed and still be worrying about, like, is my kid asleep? Is my kid okay? Is my kid sick? Did my kid finish their homework? Do they have everything packed for tomorrow? What do I need for tomorrow, right? Our brains are constantly thinking about our children, right? And how is it that our husbands just fall into bed and they're like, hey, let's get it on tonight, right? And you're like, wait a second, like, I'm not in that phase yet. I'm not in that place in bed where I can just like drop everything yet and get it on, right? We have to have a little bit more planning as mothers to allow ourselves to drop that survival mode, right? So that chemical bond, that connection to keep our children safe is intense, stronger than our husbands in many cases, not always, but many cases. So can we look at that and see the beauty in it, right? I wouldn't want myself to be any other way. I want to have that nurturing drive that is fierce and protective. I want that as a mother, and I am grateful that I have it. So can we be grateful for it even when our brains go on overdrive? Like, what would that do? Just finding gratitude for the way we are made to be fiercely protective and being that mama bear that we want to be. And then what gratitude does there as well is it takes it one step further in reminding ourselves that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with me, right? And then the third step is to breathe. Take a deep breath in, put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, get in touch with your body again, bring your awareness to your body, and just breathe in. Breathe all the way in, breathe all the way out, right? That breath out is one of the things that calms your nervous system and regulates it again. Taking that deep breath and letting it out is the next step. And what that's going to do is, as it calms your nervous system, a calm nervous system is able to find some logic, right? And it's able to start looking at the present moment and also looking at the bigger picture. And finding your levity again, finding your basis in reality again. And then the fourth thing that I would suggest is to tap into that deeper wisdom within you, right? That spiritual practice of trust. I believe trust is like the ultimate spiritual practice of you knowing and trusting that the universe, that God has your back. And building that trust that, that your overall life, the big picture of your overall life, the big picture of your children's overall life will be okay, right? And taking it that step further, if one of your fears is about dying, I'm relating this to a lot of the example you gave with the airplane, but you can relate it to a lot of things, right? But if one of your overall fears is dying and leaving your children, can you trust that you will not leave this planet before it is your time? Can you trust that there is a higher power at work here? a higher power behind the scene that you will not leave this planet before it is your time, right? What is the benefit of thinking anything else? Nothing. I can't think of any other benefit of not fully trusting that you will be here on this earth for as long as you are supposed to be, right? And also, like, what would be the benefit of you not trusting that your kids will be okay no matter what? There is no benefit, right? But what is the benefit of really believing that and trusting that God has your back, that you will be okay, that you will not leave this planet before it is your time? The benefit in that is that you are able to be present with reality right now, right? And again, you can apply this to anything, right? Even the dishes. Like, what if my house is always messy? And even just like saying, I trust that the dishes will get done when I have time. I trust that that the laundry will get done in time. I trust that all things on my to-do list have a time and a place, and when they are supposed to be done, they will be done. And if you're like, well, yeah, but then I would have to trust myself that I would actually do it and not be lazy about it. I hear you. I hear you. I know that thoughts as well. That's the time that you get to practice that thought. I trust myself to continue to learn and get better at managing my time. I don't have to be perfect right now, but I trust myself that I will continue to keep getting better at managing my time. Can you practice that deep self-trust? And practicing that deep self-trust is going to allow your amygdala to calm down and stop thinking that a messy house or an airplane or anything else is dangerous, right? You can bring this practice into every single aspect of your life. Again, not just when you're on a plane and worried about dying and leaving your children behind, but every single aspect of your life. It's a deep spiritual practice that, you get to work on for the rest of your life, right? We get to work on this stuff for the rest of our life. How beautiful. We are never going to reach this part of our lives where we are perfect and where we have no anxious thought. And we don't. We see, completely logical every single time. And we only worry about things when there's actually something to worry about. That's not reality, right? That's not being human. Being human is kind of messy. And can we embrace that and say, this is okay, right? We notice our thoughts. We take these steps to manage it well, to manage our brains well. And then, in addition, there's one last tip that I will say here, unless I think of something else. The last thing is to prepare for these situations. Like, just let's take some logic in play here. Let's use our brains and prepare for these situations. I remember the very first time Chris and I left our kids. I think we've left our kids a total of maybe 3 times from the time my oldest was born to a few years ago. We left maybe a total of 3, maybe 4 times that I can remember. But we did not leave them a lot. My 2 of my kids had very high needs, and my oldest has autism and she has severe bout of long depression. And so we didn't have a chance to leave our kids a lot. And we did not have family in town most of our time that we had kids. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. But the very first time we left them, let's see, my youngest was about 5 and my oldest was about 12. I left them with my mom, who lives near Fort Myers, Florida, and my stepdad, while we went down to Miami, about 4 hours away from where my mom lives. And we were going on a boat by ourselves, or not by ourselves, but we went with a couple friends of ours, and we were going to go out on a boat to the deep sea and just have some fun there. And I remember, like, the panic was so intense. Like, once we started driving and left my kids, the panic was so intense. And so I took some time in the car on the way there to write a letter. And I wrote that email to my mom, to my brother, and my sisters, and to my best friends who I wanted to raise my children if something bad had happened to us. And, and I basically laid out all the information of, here's what you need. Here's the doctor. Here's, all the things. Here's all of our wishes if Chris and I were not able to come back. And I got some funny messages back from my siblings, of course, but that letter was able to really allow me to have a little bit of peace, knowing that my children were at least taken care of, and my family and my friends would know what my wishes were, right? And then cut to a couple years later. That was like a last minute, like, oh my gosh, I better plan this because I'm panicking before I go out on a boat in the deep sea. But cut to a couple years later. Gosh, I'm trying to think. Okay, this was when my oldest was about 16 and she was going through a really, really hard time, you guys. And we wanted to take a trip to New York to see my husband's uncle get married. And it was going to be a 4-day trip. And I was terrified because that was during a really, really hard time of our lives in so many areas. And so during that time, though, I took it a step further than the letter this time. A step that we should have taken a very long time ago, right? At the beginning of having children. So we created a will. And I put together a complete binder in addition to that will. Single thing my children and family would need to know, from the technical things of our bank accounts and our house documents and who my kids' doctors were and therapists at the time, to our life insurance information, all the things that would make it simple for someone coming in to take care of my kids or for my kids as they moved on. I put everything into a binder. All of the information that they needed to know where to find went into that binder, plus the will. And those two things were able to give me a lot of peace of mind about leaving, right? And, of course, the emotional aspect of fear and leaving my children behind was still there, but it allowed my brain to realize that, you know what? I've done everything possible that I needed to if something tragic were to happen. I knew that my ducks were in order, right? So that's step 5, is to take some practical steps. If some of these intrusive thoughts and detrimental thoughts happen a lot when you leave your kids, or, what if kind of scenarios of if you were to leave this earth before, you want to take some time to prepare, take some time to make that happen. And I'm pretty sure I spent probably 3 days completing all of that stuff. It was an intense 3 days of me really focusing solely on that. And then when you're done preparing, go back and repeat steps 1 through 4. So real quick again, what are those steps? Those first steps are, number 1, notice that your brains do this and that you are not your thoughts. Number 2 is to simply thank your brain for trying to keep you safe. Number 3 is take those deep breaths in and all the way out, allowing you to get in touch with your body, reminding yourself that you are safe, and allowing your nervous system to focus on the present, and, reminding you that you are safe in this moment. In addition to that, telling yourself, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, right? Repeating those words is really helpful in those moments to ground you in the present moment. Then number 4 is to welcome in that spiritual aspect of deep trust that your life will go as it should, and that you will not leave this earth before you and your children are ready. And then number 5, again, is to plan and use that prefrontal cortex that we are blessed with. We don't just have an animal brain amygdala. We also have a human prefrontal cortex that we can plan with. So use that brilliant part of your brain to, absolutely take some logical steps of planning ahead. And then apply this to the other areas of your life as well, not just the more risky situations of traveling in a plane, which is not actually risky if you look at the stats. But ask yourself, where in my life does my brain go on overdrive? Is it when I'm late in the mornings, when my house is messy, when I feel like there's so much to do and overwhelmed? Is it a conversation that I have to have with someone that is difficult? Where can you use these 4 steps to help your amygdala calm down, help your nervous system to calm down, and look at all the situation and use these 5 steps on those as well. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for the question, and I will see you later. Okay, I know that some of my podcast listeners are going to benefit from that answer as well. And again, you are absolutely welcome to join us in Stoked. I would love to have you there. All right, you can find out more information at rachelcunningham.com. You can also email me any of your questions at hello@rachelcunningham.com. And again, that's Rachel with an AEL. So if you have a question that you would like for me to answer on this podcast, send me a question and I'll answer it. Otherwise, I will see you when you're ready in the Stoked community.